So once again, thanks to everyone who's made time to be with us today. I hope you're keeping safe and very well. Our panel is ready, so I'll get us started. Sharing my screen. Very good. I hope you can see my screen. The panel, you can confirm if you can see the screen.
Yes, Fred, we can.
All right, very well. Good stuff. So, so we are live on Facebook, our page Belva Digital. So in case you have anyone who'd like to listen in on Facebook, they can go to our page, streaming there. Our session today is dubbed Digital Marketing in Times of Uncertainty. Those are the times we are in as we speak. Before we get knee deep into this, I'll introduce you the team, starting with myself. I'm the founder and the chief at Belva Digital, telling you more about Belva Digital shortly. At Belva, I deal more with product diversification, partnerships, regional growth. Previously been recognized as the top 40 under 40 businessman in Kenya. That's by the National Media Group, as well as the top 25 men in digital. So I've got a small trophy cabinet somewhere. Previously had the pleasure of working at Google and IBM. Background is in tech turned marketing. Got my computer science from one of our tech universities in Kenya later, and my certificate from the CIM Institute. A bit about Belva Digital before I hand you over to the panel. We are an award-winning performance marketing agency, strong focus on delivering results, keenly focused on what's really important for the businesses, whether it's acquisition, retention, and so forth. Been around for the last 8 years. In that period, we've grown our presence across 22 markets. We have a physical office in Uganda as well as Kenya, where is our HQ. We also a preferred partner with the likes of Google, Facebook, Twitter, and so forth, which enables us to be able to provide a lot of insights for our partners. Our offering is split across 4 pillars. We help you build your digital assets. We help you connect your audience to your assets. We create content that engages, and ultimately we optimize all these efforts to be able to deliver business value. Great, I'll hand you over to Charity. Ladies first. Charity can give us a brief about yourself, and then John and Brian. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Fred. Good morning, all our attendees. My name is Charity Winnie Kamusiime-Asiimwe, aka Atika Music. I am a passionate, self-driven, hardworking wife, mother, and a marketer as a consultant in marketing, specifying in digital marketing strategies. I'm also a tutor and a coach in that area. I'm a member and ambassador of the Chartered Institute of Marketing, UK, and the Uganda Marketers Society of Uganda. My professional experience spans across telecommunications, financial institutions. I've previously worked with Airtel, MTN, Scan Group, Mad Advertising, and currently I work with EcoBank Transnational Incorporated, and at the same time tutoring at Uganda Management Institute in the levels of CIM level 3 and level 4. My drive is hinged on value for results with a God-given A-game towards the ultimate stardom. Thank you.
Very well. I hope you caught the name, at least one of them. Thank you, Charity. John?
Thank you, Fred. Good morning to all our attendees. My name is John Ssenkeezi. So many things to so many people, but professionally, I'm a digital marketer. My history and background is media, advertising agencies, telecoms, and at the moment, I'm working with the National Social Security Fund, which is a pension fund in East Africa. But I also consult with a number of companies from Africa's most valuable fintech to the fastest growing telemedicine provider, and so many businesses in between. I've been doing digital for 11 years plus now, with my core strength in strategy, content, community, analytics, media buying, and technology projects. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, John. I believe you'll be telling us more why you opted to take the call from the car. Looking forward to that short story. Brian, over to you.
Thanks, Fred. Good morning, everyone. My name is Brian Mogeni. I'm particularly passionate about creating value through technology in Africa and across the world. And that's the space that I've been playing in over the last decade. I'm currently, and I am one of the co-founders and the CEO of Wowz, which we'll talk a bit more about as we go. But previously, I've spent time developing and scaling internet businesses across Africa and parts of Europe, namely with Accenture, which was close with the Kenya Ministry of ICT in Kenya, with what is Huduma today. I've also been involved with a lot of the Rocket internet ventures in Africa, as well as Opera Software with fintech and content. Yeah, great to be here. Looking forward to a great conversation today. Yeah, thank you, Brian.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that's our panel today. I believe you're excited to learn from each and one of us. So in terms of the rules, we will have a panel conversation, and then feel free to ask questions. We'll allow you to orally ask questions as well. So if you have anything burning, you can raise your hand, and at some point we'll allow you to speak. But otherwise, you have the option of Q&A down in your Zoom. We've got about 35 people who've joined in. That's good. I believe we should be having more as we go on. The essence of this conversation today is really to discuss how we can move our brands forward. And we're going to lean a lot on the panel of experts we have today. As you've heard, it's a pretty experienced team with global as well as local experience. Along the way, we'll identify some of the trends that are shaping the new normal and how you as a brand can be able to plug in. Then we'll discuss how we'll adjust our business during this period post COVID, if we ever get to post COVID. As we all know, 21 has been billed as a year of transition. We went through the rough patches of the pandemic mostly in 2020. 2021 became the period of acceptance and moving forward. And it's a period of shaping the future, as opposed to just going through life, as opposed to just waking up and trying to survive every day. We have to find a sense of thriving in this period. And as much as most brands have adjusted, we're still seeing some of the brands struggling to get back in their game. And as we all know, we're in the second half of the year. And this session is really, we've invited you to be able to learn a lot from each one of you, and then discuss, the insights, the tactics that, can be able to deliver growth. So we're going to talk about local insights, global, but, local. So I have a couple of questions I'll be throwing to the panel. And I'll start with just reflecting, because I know we've got a mix of audience from different countries, from Kenya, Uganda, Nigeria, Ghana, etc. So it'd be great to get a picture from our panel. And I'll start with Charity from Uganda, just to give us a picture of how it has been. I understand you're on quite a strict lockdown as we speak. So give us a picture of what's happening in Uganda as we speak. Charity, and then I'll let you, John, chip in as well.
All right, thank you, Fred. Yes, as you all know, we are in our 42-day complete lockdown with just essential workers moving about. Minimal movement, relying on borders, or what we call the motorbikes, to do our day-to-day shopping and hustle movement. Other than that, we are all locked in and trying to see how best we can curb the problem. Thankfully, as at yesterday, the news says that the cases are declining. So it's good news, meaning that hopefully the 42 days will come to go and will be open again. But how has this affected us in terms of shopping, in terms of news, in terms of socializing? We are all stuck on the internet. We are all online trying to pick a few things here and there. Of course, virtual office, virtual schooling, everything is online. So in terms of the lockdown, we are locked up, but not locked in. We still are open to the outside world using digital. So in a nutshell, that's what it's like now. And we're seeing a lot of growth and businesses going online. We're seeing a lot of social commerce picking up. We see a lot of e-commerce taking shape. And of course, we are seeing a lot of people upskilling into the digital space. We're seeing animators, we're seeing content developers, guys are coming up. So while we're in the lockdown, the brains is still active. So in a nutshell, that's what it's like here. John, you can add. Thank you.
Thanks, Charity. You've pretty much used all the answer sheets. You've covered pretty much, whatever there is to cover. But just to complement what you've said, yes, we are indeed under a lockdown. But again, since you've covered more social and lifestyle, I'll restrict myself to the business side. Obviously, in any lockdown, there are people who are greatly affected. And in our case, there are people who survive on daily bread. So such people, are going through one of their hardest times, apart from the limited movement for themselves and their customers. Most of the arcades are closed with just a few shopping malls open. So those guys who cannot transition to digital spaces to continue running their business have taken a big beating in terms of profitability and all their business parameters. But then there is also the opportunity that has been presented by the current times. We've seen brands across all levels embrace digital. We've seen shifts in media spends. Previously, conventional marketing was taking up a huge chunk, with digital taking up a very small percentage. We've seen that shift happening in favor of digital. There is still some TV, radio stuff running, but digital is getting priority at the moment. We've also seen remote collaboration, taking center stage. We've also seen big businesses partnering with small tech players to provide solutions to their problems. For example, we have breweries that can't, supply their products the normal way. So they are relying on an ecosystem of innovators who use very simple technologies such as applications or WhatsApp to do business and keep the doors open. So yeah, it's quite an interesting time. Lots of opportunities, but the toll on the economy can also be felt, especially for an everyday person. Then also we currently have restrictions on the use of Facebook. So Facebook being the biggest social media platform in the land, that has, fairly disadvantaged a couple of guys. But yeah, we are moving on.
Thank you, John, for that picture. Brian, do you want to let us more about what's happening? I understand you're sitting from Nairobi today. Good.
Yes, I am.
As well. Yeah.
I managed not to be trapped in the lockdown in Kampala. I think, in terms of I think generally, the world globally, I feel we've reached a stage where we've all somewhat adapted. We've adapted to the middle phase of this stage, where we at least we know how to deal with it. And I think now this is a great time to look at, to look back and say, how has the pandemic pushed us to try new things, to test new things, to drop some things, and then kind of look at which ones now do we pick and go as we, start looking towards really getting used to living with this or getting beyond the pandemic. So it is another interesting stage. Yeah.
And I think while we're still at you, Brian, what's that persistent concern that you keep hearing from business owners, brand managers, marketing, and keep it to a sentence.
I believe John touched on something that relates to this. Over the last decade, there's been a consistent shift from traditional to digital. The two still complement each other very well. But I think one thing digital has really encouraged is more transparency, more focus on measuring output. So I think if you ask me the one persistent concern brand managers, the marketing ecosystem, talk about a lot. It's to do with ROI. How do you measure what you do? And digital is bringing new capabilities of doing that more and more. Yeah.
Okay. And I think throughout the session, we'll talk about, how can we measure ROI and some of the tools and tactics we can implement towards that. But also just looking at the data we have, we've shown that a lot of micro and small businesses have been affected more than of the large and the medium to large enterprises, right? So how can we, based on our expertise, be able to advise these really small institutions or businesses that are struggling to thrive or survive rather, to be able to get out of this situation they're in? And I'll start with Charity.
Okay. So one of the perceptions that have gone on for a long time is that digital or marketing is expensive. So one of the quickest wins is to go simple, and simple could be as simple as opening a page on social media and using your social network or your social capital to help you drive your agenda. So one of the key principles is not to think so big the budget or think so big the channel, but think on the smaller things that you can do to get you started. So one of the kickoff is just open a page and be present on the channel that appeals to your audience. The second one is using your social capital, i.e. the people that know you, the people that you have interacted, the customers that you have engaged, to be your voice. So primarily it's having the product that is addressing the situation. So if you have, for example, been a Kafunda gentleman selling grain somewhere, this is the time to have your grain delivered by your boda. Okay. Now the boda guy is not going to be paid extra. It's going to be the same amount that you're going to pass on to the customer. So what have you engaged your customer? Do you have their phone numbers? Do you have their Twitter handle? Do you have their Facebook page? And I know that most of them perhaps don't know how to use these things, but their customers know how to. So pick that one customer that you're related with to help you drive the agenda. So we need to start thinking the quick, short, not expensive, easy to do things, and the bigger picture will come along as we progress.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that. I think Winnie will be telling us what a Kafunda is for the non-Ugandans in the call. John, what do you think? What can small businesses do to get out of this situation?
Yeah, I think there are a number of small businesses that have managed to survive in spite of what is happening, and they've really done some very basic, hygiene elements. One of the reasons why, and I speak from my telco experience, one of the reasons why businesses such as telcos make a lot of money is because they are quite deliberate about understanding their customers and the behavior of that customer. And I think the ability for you to capture and the KYC information about your customer from as basic as their phone number, their email address has never been important, because with that you are empowered to have a deeper interaction with your value chains, regardless of where that falls. So I think for businesses that are struggling, one of the key things that they would have to do in order to stay afloat is to invest themselves in knowing their customers. The same way we are encouraged to do bookkeeping for our business, knowing the inflows and outflows, is the same way a person or a business should look at their customer base. You need to know who they are. You need to have personas. You need to have segments of who these people are, because you'll have customers at different stages in their buying journey. You'll have guys who awareness will make sense to. You'll have guys who after sales support will make sense to, and all the way in between. So I would encourage businesses, one, invest yourself in understanding who your customer is. That's the only way you can speak to them in the language they understand on the platforms on which they are. Then also there is a very, very big problem that we find with small businesses, and that's lead nurturing. So you engage the services of a digital marketer. The marketer creates this huge demand for your services and products, but then you don't have the internal capacity to nurture these leads into actually paying customers for your service or product. So I would encourage businesses to have lead nurturing processes in place. This can be done by even free tools. Like, for example, we know HubSpot CRM does a pretty good job with client relationship management, and it comes at no cost for many of the functions there. But I would also encourage them to adopt the simplest of technologies. I always I do web development, but there is money I haven't taken from businesses, not because I don't want it, because I feel they don't need certain infrastructure. When we talk e-commerce, people's minds run to the traditional way of thinking about e-commerce. You have a page, a website, someone adds to cart, they go to checkout, they complete, the entire journey. But e-commerce has been, shrunk down to the very basic of technologies. Right now, so many businesses are doing big business on WhatsApp, just WhatsApp business. So I'd encourage guys, for example, interestingly, there are businesses that are still using personal WhatsApp, which kind of rids you of the advantages of having a business WhatsApp line. So I would encourage them to keep it simple, because also costs are very important. It's fairly easy to maintain a WhatsApp business than a website, because it comes with these challenges. But also critically, nurture these leads into paying customers by being responsive. Right now, you cannot afford to get a direct message from customers and answer 3 days later, 2 days later. You are losing out on business, and customers are moving on. Yeah.
I think that's quite insightful. I think if you summarize it, you ensure that you know your customer, you understand the behavior, and subsequently, look for affordable, almost free tools that you can be able to integrate with to ensure that you engage, almost lead the customer to be able to complete a purchase with you. And I'll jump to Brian. Brian, I understand Wowz was born right before the pandemic, or right in the middle of the pandemic. You've been able to run that business for a year plus. How has that been for you? And probably you can also use the opportunity to tell us more about Wowz.
Okay, thanks, Fred. Definitely one of the most interesting ways to hit the ground running, to have COVID behind your back. You'll definitely run. I think maybe just to put a bit of context. So Wowz itself is a influencer marketing platform that basically enables brands and agencies to create communities that they can easily engage with their customers. So some of the touch points that have been mentioned by Charity, in terms of leveraging your customers to be the advocates of your product. Those are some of the capabilities where you actually turn pretty much everyone, from your best friend, from your colleague, from the border rider, to the big celebrities as influencers very easily. But yeah, just to talk about the journey, I think generally this last 2 years or so has had an intense factor for adapting. It's like a massive season for adapting. And we launched right at the beginning, and I think COVID has enabled businesses to this trend was generally happening, where businesses were looking at digital more and more, but it kind of just pushed people. When you have negotiations for marriage taking place on Zoom with old men, that shows things are pushing. That means when the marketing agency drops a pitch at the office, he look at it, he'll actually have a foundation. So yeah, it's been a good year of growth. We've started here in Kenya, but we're currently active across the markets. In Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and also Mauritius. So it's been a pretty good year of growth and giving good ROI to some of our partners and clients.
That's great to hear, Brian. I think it's always nice to see a startup that has thrived or managed to grow during a pandemic. And from how do you see the role of influencers? Has it shifted with the pandemic? And how can businesses really be able to plug in influencer marketing into their day-to-day?
Yeah, so if we look at the role of influencers, it's actually something that's always existed, even if we go back centuries. You know, people trust in people like I. We're social beings. We have a natural need to share. So I think over the last, let's say, 7, 8 years, the technology that can enable this channel to be leveraged much more at scale and with control and measurement are now coming up, and those are some of the problems we set out to solve. So the role of influencers is more important today, even if you look at COVID, especially in Uganda, where people cannot interact as much as they used to. So as a small business, as a huge brand, you can't stop engaging with your customers. And due to the lockdown, you lose some of these touch points, like the point of sale, when they're going to work, the billboards that they see. So now brands need to find new ways to engage and with their end customers, and one way to do that through their friends, through their favorite celebrities, through their colleagues, is pretty much one of the most strongest ways that has ever been. So how brands can leverage that, it's now a lot of the thinking and the creative side of carrying out influencer campaigns still sits with the brands, but today some of the tedious, the manual side of it that limits the skill, that the headache part of it is handled by technology. So that is something that would take 4 hours to design a strategy on in a boardroom, and 3 weeks or 3 months to execute now takes 10 minutes through a platform such as Wowz with a few clicks.
Yeah, that's interesting. I guess if you have any questions about influencer marketing, feel free to throw them in, and we'll take questions as we go. And I think back to my panel, in terms of innovation, have we seen anything else come out of this crisis? Have you seen a new generation of resilient entrepreneurs? Something that you've noted? It doesn't always have to be the fancy stuff, I think. John, anything that comes to mind?
A couple of solutions have come in place. I know, for example, the Uganda Breweries has partnered with a really good, solutions provider called Chikubo Online and a couple of others. And these guys basically leverage the distribution network for the bigger brand to actually deliver a product to the end customer. But on a broader side, we've also seen lots of innovation. Banks were traditionally known to be, maybe because of their regulatory environment, to be a bit laid back in terms of adoption for new technology. Like, for example, I kept on wondering why I need to walk into a brick and mortar to open a bank account. Like, I can do all this thing online, and here we are years later, and I have to walk to a bank to open an account. We've seen, banks adopt really simple things, technologies like just a web form on a page for me to open up an account, then they can do their necessary validations, etc. But on the customer experience side, we've also seen a shift of traffic. I know of so many companies whose traffic has been shifted from the traditional come to our service center scenario to the online spaces, and social has contributed immensely to that. We've seen some guys who do some chatbots that use AI and big data to serve customers. So it's been an interesting time, and growth has been seen also. As Brian said, on the influencer space, away from the big influencers that many of us were accustomed to, we've seen a rise in the micro influencer. So this is a guy, he's not very big in following and influence, but then the series of 10 or so of these guys creates huge impact for a business, for both awareness and product sales and all of that. So yeah, we've seen some good innovation around that. Also social listening. brands now, maybe because customers can't come to complain at the counter, have taken keen interest in social listening tools. A number of them on the market, from the free ones like the one from Google to paid versions. So yeah, I think the pandemic has forced us to accelerate whatever effort we were making.
Very well, thanks, John. Charity?
Thank you. I think that John has hinted on most of them. But what I noticed, or what I've observed, is the shortening of our value chain in terms of acquisition into delivery. We have seen a very quick adoption of e-deliveries or e-commerce. A lot of brands have adopted the social commerce. We see a lot of selling on Instagram, a lot of selling on Twitter. We see a lot of selling on Facebook, and this is not just for Uganda, but across the markets. And what we also observe is that they have opted to design their own delivery options. If you look at, for example, telemedicine in Uganda, previously it would be dependent on Safe Border, but now we see adoption in their own delivery services. We see brands like restaurants going into the whole value chain of e-commerce into e-delivery. So in terms of innovation, there is a whole e-commerce chain that's being taken up by different brands from different industries or different sectors. What I also observe is the innovation around religious fraternity. Previously, church was about being in church, physical church or physical mosque, but we now see that this can be done virtually. So the rise of virtual events by brands and what we see this enabling is the cashless economy, where different people can pay for whatever it is without the physical cash. We see cards, we see mobile money, etc. So brands, big, small, are all going into that space of innovation. But priority now is brands are becoming very customer-centric, which is a very big thing for the market. Previously, it was all about sell, and I'll sell my product. But now we see brands actually tapping into the content development and driving experience more than the physical products. So for me, it's the small innovations that count for the bigger output. And I see a lot of brands going into that space. And what's coming up is skilling and skilling and skilling. One of the biggest innovations in Uganda is how everyone, quote unquote, has become a content creator and has become a guru of themselves. So one of the innovations is the self-actualization in what people are good at doing. And we see this being delivered online. So whether it's crafts, whether it's financial capacity, whether it's economic knowledge, whatever it is, people have mastered their game. And what we see doing that is the development of what we call the 7 income streams. People are looking for how else to make that extra income. So that has driven a lot of innovation in the little spaces and in the big spaces. So thank you.
Thanks. And I think I'll use the opportunity to also check if our audience is just engaged. I have a few questions for you guys. How many Ugandans are online? And if you have the answer, just shoot it in the Q&A section, the chat section rather. The question is, how many Ugandans are online today? And they're in the millions, just to give you a hint. Yeah, you guys are Googling, huh? I can see, you can hear the keyboards cracking, so. Yeah. You want another hint? See frame. So yeah, it's keep bringing the answers. So again, it's in the millions. And another hint, it's in the tens of millions. Thank you, Ephraim. Oh, and by the way, we may have a present for you, so. Online as internet users, not just social, yeah. So you guys are masters in Googling. So, okay. I think we've got the answer. We've got Ephraim thinks about 14 million. Osbat 12.6. Catherine 11. Shadrach 10.6. Some good guesses there. So I think you guys have done Googling. So well done. So it's as of January 2021, that was 12.16 million. I understand, just back to my panel, I understand there's been another round of taxes on internet access in Uganda, right? From your understanding, Charity, has that affected, do you think it will have a downward impact on the numbers?
Unfortunately or fortunately, I think that we're in this digitization era to life. We're not going to go backwards. So the tax will impact us. However, it will not impact much on the adoption. Why? It's because our lives are now stuck online. And because the way it's been set is that as a customer, you might not feel it. It will be part of your usual subscription. So instead of getting your 10 MBs, for example, for 500 shillings, you'll get the 10 MBs for 600 shillings. So it's more like price rise, and that's what it is. So will it impact us? It will impact us, but I don't think that it will impact the adoption, and especially because of the new norm and the new consumer behavior. We are stuck on technology, we are stuck on digital. So will it impact? No. However, it will impact on our customer lifetime value. Customers who are subscribing, say 5 times in a month, those times will reduce. So we're going to start a new trend of I subscribe based on the need, as opposed to subscribe based on just social networking. So I think that the consumer behavior will change in terms of uptake and frequency, and for the purpose for which we'll be taking on the services. Yeah.
Okay. And there's a question along that line from Usha. With Facebook banned in Uganda, is it right to run ads at the moment? John, what do you think?
It's a common question that keeps popping up. Actually, one of the most asked questions now. And I always advise the people who get in touch with me that a VPN does basically one thing. It's going to alter your IP address primarily to place you in a location where you're not. But we need to be mindful of what data sources Facebook picks from in terms of targeting, even geographically. So Facebook, once you open an account in Uganda, they have a database of Ugandan users. They have a database in Kenya, Sudan, whatever the country is. And this is not dependent on the IP address of your device. So to start with, there is that larger segmentation. But we also know around the time Facebook Zero was being introduced in Uganda, Facebook had partnerships with telco providers. So each telco provider now has what is called the Facebook mobile partner portal that basically, shows them the Facebook traffic that's coming into their network. And that's a good resource for Facebook to actually tap into as far as geographical targeting is concerned. So to answer the story in a very non-technical, the question in a very non-technical way, yes, you can proceed to buy your advertising on Facebook. We are buying advertising on Facebook. We are getting good results from it. It's reaching the correct audience. So the ban on Facebook or restrictions on Facebook will limit perhaps how many times people will check in, which kind of gets your impressions a bit down. But the fact is we rarely have the budgets to even do the entire impression count that is available. So to that person, I would say just continue buying your ads. The use of VPNs is not going to alter the targeting, at least on Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe just to further the question is, often we say data doesn't lie, and that businesses need to make decisions based on the data they have, right? So if you're running a campaign on Facebook, what are some of the ways a business can be able to measure value Are there specific tactics or tools that they could use, John?
Yeah, and I always break these in two. Unfortunately, one is the business KPIs, on the other is the vanity KPIs. Unfortunately, businesses, interestingly, even at a very big level, are fascinated by vanity KPIs. You talk to a CEO of a company and they're telling you how many Facebook likes they have, how whether the hashtag trended or not, and stuff like that. So there is the vanity KPI. If you run, for example, video content, yes, knowing how many views your video got is a good thing, but it's not the entire story in itself. Using that as an example, I would be interested in knowing things like the view through rate. So what is the percentage of people who saw the ad against the people who decided to view the ad? Further down, I would be interested in retention time. So if my ad is 60 seconds, how many people that saw it did 5, 10, 30 seconds, etc. Then I would be interested in the engagement that was on the video. How many people commented and reacted to the content? How many people shared? Because if you share, you're like, this is good, I need you to see it as well in your friends' network. But importantly, if, for example, the video is driving a sale, I would be interested in knowing how many people saw the video, for how long, interacted with it, and what did they do at where the landing page where I want them to take the action. So if it's buying a book, I'd be interested in how many people clicked and how many people bought and how many people abandoned their cart. So it's a big world of analysis. Although I'm a numbers guy, I also encourage people not to get so lost in, again, analyzing stuff, because you won't effectively market if you take a lot of time analyzing. But I would encourage someone that before you place a single ad, whether on Facebook or any channel, what would you like to achieve? Put that in on paper. First, do the key performance indicators, and then have the key numbers that you would like to apportion to each of those KPIs. So we say, oh, I want to get awareness. That's not a key performance indicator. What is awareness? Is it reach? Is it the view through rate? Is it the click through rate? Is it the geographical reach of your content? So define awareness, define sales, define customer experience, and whatever parameter that you feel is important to your business. It's a big topic. It's not one we can really close on this webinar.
Yeah, I understand. And I believe, John, you're happy to engage even beyond this webinar on your social media networks. I believe I've seen you very aggressive on LinkedIn. So I guess anyone who wants to engage on post this, you can always hunt him on LinkedIn and have a further conversation about some of these things. And just to circle back to Brian in regards to influencer marketing, there's a question from Richard about what's the impact of influencers on the output of influencer involvement on, say, the Facebook page compared to the Facebook ads boosting. I'm quite sure, Richard, if you mean influencers versus Facebook ads. If that's not the case, feel free to clarify. But Brian, you can jump in and respond to him as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Great. So if we're to compare the two, I think John has touched on a lot of the different ways of measurement and things to focus on. And generally, when you look at influencer marketing and targeted paid adverts, they serve different parameters of these metrics. So if we're to compare, primarily we do look at influencer marketing as a way to engage. It's the real key aspect about it is the human touch, the human side of it. That's what an advert does not necessarily do. And if we were to look at your marketing and your funnel, there is a point at which where someone does see something, and then within our general networks, as we go through life, you engage with the same message through a human being. And that's what we see providing a lot of ROI. In terms of comparison, so when you do run campaigns, you are able to set up and track and compare. But I think in terms of if you're comparing the two, one could be much more performance related, but the other is also how do you involve that human touch in delivering your marketing message. And at the end of the day, we are all humans. You're much more likely to do something that your friend or visit a restaurant that one of your friends has gone to, or buy a product that you've been recommended by someone who's close within your circle. But yeah, they're both very different ways to touch and engage with your customer. Yeah.
Thanks, Brian. Got a question from Eric in terms of crafting, impacting, retargeting ads on Facebook. I want to know how many people that reach out for information and link them. I want to know how I think he's asking about, Facebook retargeting and how basically to go about it to be able to drive conversions. Charity, do you want to get that?
Okay, cool. Thank you. So for any kind of communication, whether targeting, whether just awareness, like John and Brian have mentioned, KPIs are important. So you need to first understand what your KPI is. What do you want to achieve? Okay. And when you're done with that, then you define who your customer or who your audience is. You need to know their detail. When do they come online? What age bracket are they? What times are they there? What kind of content are they consuming? And then how you package your advert will determine how your customer will be able to take it in. Okay. So understanding your audience will determine if your advert will be very impactful. Okay. Now, technically, you need to go into Facebook and then define your parameters, and then you'd be able to flight your advert accordingly. But most importantly is know who your customer is and engage with the platform on Facebook, the hour, the time, and your KPIs, and you'll be able to get impact. Okay.
Okay. Thanks. I hope you got that. Charity network appears to have been slightly slow. You can stabilize that as I move to David here. So David Kabito from Uganda, shout out to Charity. Thank you, Charity, for inviting David. He has two questions for John. First question is, what advice do you give small business that doesn't have any marketing, sales, or customer service background on how to use a CRM like HubSpot? It looks quite intimidating, frankly. Even, what is a CRM? So he wants to start from the basics. Then the second question is, what ways can I understand my customer, their behavior and journey? Please guide me as a business. Those are David's questions, John.
Right. So the first one is on the CRM. HubSpot is one of the examples, among the so many tools there open to David to consider. But I always tell business people, don't complicate things, especially if you're starting out. So many businesses would do a lot of good starting with the very basic of customer relationship management tools, which we have at hand, and that's a WhatsApp business account. I have a friend I support. He does sell savings boxes for kids, customized and all that stuff. So while I build for him an e-commerce engine that accepts mobile money payments and card payments, etc., we discovered that so many people are abandoning their cart midway. So what we did is to create an integration on his website directly to his WhatsApp business. 4 months later, he's getting 80% of his orders from that integration as opposed to the normal e-commerce integration. So I think to David, I would say keep it simple. Start off from key platforms like Messenger. Messenger has some really good tools for you to do things like auto replies, holding responses, and all of that stuff, that can be done there. You can do WhatsApp business and so many others. But if HubSpot is what he wants to go for, if there is any documented CRM on the market, that is HubSpot. There is a full academy for HubSpot that you can learn about things like inbound and outbound marketing, etc. And also the usage of HubSpot end-to-end, how you integrate with your emails, how you do auto reminders and all that stuff. So I would encourage him to check out HubSpot Academy, or even do YouTube videos. There is a lot of content on that CRM. But yeah, I agree with him. It's quite intimidating if you're trying to find your way, but very easy once you do. The second question was how he can understand the customer. Now, first of all, I always get shocked to learn from people. I always ask business owners, when did you last check on your analytics, even the very basic of analytics, Facebook? There is a guy I worked with to do a platform audit, and the guy was targeting people aged about 28 upwards. He had about 23,000 people following his Facebook page. He was very, very excited that he's 23K, followers on his page. We did a very basic audit, and to our shock, or his shock, not mine really, he was doing about 75% 18 to 24-year-olds. Now, his bullseye is a 30-year-old. He was spending a lot of money, likes, and only for us to realize that all along he's had an audience. Yes, they could become potential customers, maybe in a few years down the road, but are they the ones going to drive his business objectives now? And the answer was no. So I'd encourage guys to check out each of these platforms. Twitter, Facebook, IG, LinkedIn has analytics that tells you when your people are online. For example, if you don't have ads in your marketing mix, you want to post your content when your followers are online. Not just saying, for us, we post at 8, or in Uganda, the best time to post is 11. There's no such thing anywhere. So you need to understand your audience, check out the analytics of these platforms. If you have a website, those developers need to be imprisoned. You develop a website, you don't put Google Analytics for your client, which means that they have a notice board, they cannot measure performance of the website. So how do you then understand who is interacting with your content online, particularly your website, and how you can leverage that audience at the end of the day? So it's very simple to check if your website has analytics. There is what is called the Google Tag Assistant. It's a Chrome browser extension, and it will give you, as soon as you load it and install and reload the website, it will tell you if it has analytics. Then I also encourage guys to do Google Search Console. Google Search Console is a tool that tells you what people are Googling in your industry and about your business. So you're able to see how much traffic you're getting or missing from Google Search, which is one of the biggest organic drivers, and so many other technical things that can really get you there. Then if you have a brick and mortar location and you're not on Google My Business, my friend, you're the guy saying the pandemic is hard. It shouldn't be too hard for you, because you realize that you're missing out on about minimum 1,000 for even the smallest of businesses I've looked at in a month of people checking out your location. Now that you can't deliver and they can't come to you, you can publish content on your Google My Business locations, because there are guys on this call who have these locations set up. There is no content on what their alternative delivery options are now that, customers can't go to their locations. You don't have anything on self-service, anything on delivery. So it's kind of a waste of a very valuable resource that you have. So there's so many things really, but I think those are all free. All you need to do is to be deliberate about using them.
Thank you, John. I hope you didn't send too many to jail. As you taught them these things. Is it okay, and just to probably speak to a lot of small businesses, is it okay to start with a Google Sheet or Microsoft Sheet as a CRM initially, as you build up on the knowledge for this more robust platforms like HubSpot and so forth?
Yes, it helps. You can do a simple sheet where you manage your leads, for example. So you get someone contacting you, you have a column that has the name of the customer, their phone number, an email if you have it and what they were interested in. And then if you follow up and they tell you, oh, get back to me in 2 days, then you do the follow-up time. The beauty is, even if you're working with your team, everyone can be able to see the updates on the sheet in real time. So there are some really basic tools as simple as a spreadsheet that can sit on Google, or fairly advanced, tools that you can use. The key thing is where you can exploit automation, please do, because the challenges with spreadsheet kind of lead generation and nurturing is you'll have to do the manual work for the large part. Yet there are so many simple automation tools that can do like a holding response, really. You don't have to be checking your messenger, your WhatsApp business every time. Even the guys who have WhatsApp business don't have catalogs. So someone is asking you, what products do you sell apart from this, solar lamp I saw? You have a fully fledged catalog that you can populate on your WhatsApp, whereby someone, messages, and then you have an auto response that says, hi, we're going to get back to you. In the meantime, please check out our catalog. So there are some basic things really that can be done. If you can automate, I'm so big for automation, really.
I agree. And there's a follow-up question for Charity. I hope your internet is more stable now. What is customer lifetime value? You can define it in 2 or 3 words, if it's possible.
Okay, so customer lifetime value simply means the number of times the customer visits you at a cost they are willing to pay to you. For example, if you're selling cassava, okay, customer buys cassava from you every single day at 500 shillings, okay? That's the 500 is how much the customer is willing to pay you for the 5 pieces of cassava. So the lifetime value is how long does she or he want to pay that same cost for that same amount of cassava throughout the year or throughout the 6 years the customer will be purchasing from you. Yeah. So in simple terms, that's what it is.
Okay. Thanks for the cassava analogy. Now I'm hungry and I need it to be. There's a question from John. John is asking about how does a small business reach B2B clients with digital? What channels are effective to use? I think I can actually take this one. So John, based on B2B or business behavior, business professionals, you find them mostly on using email. You find them on LinkedIn. And of course, there are a couple of other, publisher platforms where, they go to consume content, but they still have human behavior. They still find them on Facebook and Twitter and so forth. So it does depend on what product you're pushing, but based on, insights that we have is B2B audiences, you maximize on email and LinkedIn. I'll share with you separately. We have a product for the same that can be able to support your automation on that and being able to get a qualified database on email, be able to prospect on LinkedIn at scale and reach and influence people on LinkedIn as well and be able to generate leads there. I don't know if my panel has any more thoughts on that question as well to be able to jump in. Good. I think my other question is, as we wind up this conversation, is also coming from Joel. What do you think is the next major trend in digital marketing in Africa? We can start with Charity, who we happen to have decided to wear checked shirts today. So we didn't plan for this.
We are in the spirit. Okay, great. So digital is going to be at the forefront. We know that previously brands used to take care of, will I be on TV? Will I be on a billboard? Will I have market terms? Well, the future or the current trend, and it's only going to become bigger, is where will I be on digital before I consider the offline? So digital is the next big trend. The rise of in-home media to complement that, i.e. we're going to see a lot of streaming and more streaming. TV viewership will grow. Social platforms more than ever are going to grow. As noticed just between last year and half this year, just social media in Uganda has grown by 36%. So with this lockdown of 42 days, that number is only going to shoot up. So globally, social media is going to rise. those of us in NGOs, crowdfunding, crowdsourcing is the next big thing. So some of those trends, we already experienced them last year, and as key learnings, we're going to see them rising up to the next generations. Okay, we're going to see the continuity and the growth of digital events because of the sense of community and the longing to have that human touch. Social media will still be leading on these social events. So brands are no longer going to have press conferences, webinars are going to be the order of the day. One, we're going to be cost cutting. Two, we're going to engage more audiences and wider opportunities for us to tap into new customer bases. So social media, video marketing, we already hinted on it. So video marketing is going to be a wow. So in a nutshell, that there are so many, but that's a summary of what I could think of right now. Thank you.
Charity. Brian?
Thank you, Fred. I think to add on to Charity, I think generally I see brands and businesses leveraging more on these communities, more and more through digital networks and frameworks and technologies. So that same concept of how can we connect the offline networks, which form pretty much more than 90% of the networks that we all have as individuals digitally. And I believe technology will enable that much more as we go, so we can continue engaging. Yeah.
Okay. And Brian, maybe while at it, we understand the world is going into a cookieless world, or rather a browsing experience. What's the impact we should expect, and what does this cookieless really mean?
Yep. So, and I believe this is a particular space John, I'm pretty sure, has been quite keen on. But yeah, generally, this just mainly means that there's certain points of data, or maybe we could call it the digital footprint of individuals that is used to retarget products. That will be curbed. I think, transparency and privacy and more control is something that's going to continue, and it's going to be at the decision of every individual. So that does affect targeting somewhat, but generally a lot of the technological businesses will adapt their different ways, of still gathering the same insight. It will curve some, capabilities with certain areas, but at the same time, I think it's a great opportunity to still, develop those same touch points, those same networks, that same footprint through other sources. Yeah.
Thanks, Brian. As John, you answer the question about the trends that we should expect in the coming year, I'm going to launch a poll to our audience. Would love to see your responses. It could sort of help us to get insights into how you currently dealing with your marketing. The poll is currently running. You should see it on your screen. John, what's a trend that we should watch out for?
I think we are really primed for a lot of exciting stuff on the digital front. Where I see a lot of stuff happening is STP, or straight through processing. So for the uninitiated, it's basically a system or user journey that is mapped where there is minimal or no human interaction at all. So for example, if you want to do task A, B, C, D, you don't have to have an agent, customer service agent on the other side to approve, to validate and things like that. We are becoming a bit open, like for example, NIRA, the national, body, and NITA, the IT body, are exposing APIs to so many businesses, and it's helping us to, for example, do validation with your national ID without necessarily telling you to upload your national ID. So I see straight through processing taking center stage going forward. I also see a lot of social commerce growing substantially. We've also realized that the big players like Facebook are starting to enable features that were not available to us in the African markets, like Instagram shopping and things like that. So that will also get somewhere as we go along. But importantly, we are also seeing a new kind of innovation that leverages technologies that have been around for long. Top of that is USSD. I consult for a telemedicine company, and USSD has been there like as old as email marketing almost. When voice telecommunications came through, USSD closely followed, and we are seeing innovation around that space. But also from my telco experience, I realized that even for companies that have customers with fairly good penetration of smartphones, the same customers are choosing USSD over the more advanced technologies like mobile apps and web technologies, etc. So innovation is coming up. We are getting people getting COVID-19 testing via USSD. We're getting people speaking to a doctor, qualified doctor via USSD, ordering my drugs via USSD, etc. But I'm also seeing a huge urge, especially from businesses, either, because of the opportunity presented by digital or a need to cost cut, going branchless. So we are seeing that trend also picking up quite fast in Uganda. I would like to say something about the cookieless economy, because we could have some digital marketers online and they are running around like headless chicken. One, there are two things that have actually threatened our livelihood if you're a digital practitioner. One was the iOS updates. Luckily for us in Africa, most of our guys are Android. So there we won't take a beating that much. Then the other is, of course, the cookieless, stuff that Google announced. But people need to tell the difference between the third-party cookies and then the first-party cookies. The cookies that are affected by these changes are the third-party cookies. So, for example, if you are able, right now, I can, put a cookie. A cookie is just a simple line of code that is stored in your browser. So I can place a cookie. You come to, and we've seen this. You go to maybe the Shower Academy. You check out a course on maybe automation and big data, and then you reading the Daily Nation or reading Daily Monitor, and you're seeing Shower Academy targeting you with that remarketing pixel. So that is going to be a bit difficult, but also the platforms like Facebook have made some advancements in offering alternatives to that. So yes, well, it's going to be a game changer, especially for ad companies that rely on third-party cookies to personalize ads. It's not going to be as it's not the end of the world, really.
Fantastic. Thanks for that. I think last comments from our panelists as I throw one more last question to Charity. Are we likely to see return of consumer confidence in the next month or two, especially in Uganda, where we're currently under a very strict lockdown?
So consumer confidence is just about the ability for the consumer to adapt. So the adaptation of the new, quote unquote, the new norm is underway. And from the activity or from the behavior that we notice, the confidence on digital adoption is very key. And in the next 1 or 2 months, there's going to be a bit of confidence on what the consumer can do online. And so will the brands. What we notice is brands now more than ever are very keen. Marketers are keen on how best they can get their returns off the alternative channels of digital marketing. So that confidence is going to build. It will take a while to master the game, but I'm certain that there will be some very good uptake. Yeah. Fantastic.
The poll is running, so some interesting, worrying insights. 63% are saying brands, their businesses are currently surviving. So we are hoping that this conversation has given you some insights to be able to implement and a lot of simple, easy, free tools that you can be able to start playing around with. You'll also have a survey at the end of this webinar, and an opportunity to have a free, no obligation conversation with us, a virtual conversation with our teams, just to understand where your business is and then be able to provide you a few more insights. Whether, no matter how small you are or big you are, we're providing this opportunity to all of you. And we're seeing social media marketing, of course, is very key. 73% of you have said social media is central to your marketing. I see websites still coming strong at 52%. John, should we still have websites with this, at where we are? Should the small businesses care for website or just put all their resources towards social commerce?
I think depending on what the business does, I find the website a very important thing to have as a business, and largely because for many of the social media platforms, you're going to be playing within their templates, so to speak. You can't extend functionality beyond what they provide, maybe through third parties, but really the options are quite limited. While on the web end, you can really determine what you'd like to achieve from your website. The problem is starting up a website without a strategy behind it, to drive traffic and visibility for it. Small businesses especially, but interestingly, even bigger players have some of the worst search engine optimization. So the person has really good content that is not optimized for search, and they're not doing justice to their content. But then also there are certain factors that are important: how fast your website loads. We also need to know that web traffic in Uganda is primarily mobile. So how your site looks like on mobile is more important than how it looks like on desktop or laptop. Interestingly, businesses will approve a website based on what they are looking at from a laptop, and yet you're supposed to do all your testing from a mobile phone. Then I also think without the plan as far as updating this content is concerned goes, you just spend your money on social, really, because sites need to be updated. You need to have a blog section, for example, where you keep authoring content that is useful, that is in search, but also learn from the data that is coming in from your Google Search Console, from your Google Analytics and the like. But importantly, also integrate your website to other channels. Have live chat, have WhatsApp Business integrated, have a Facebook pixel integrated, so that there is that synergy between the audience on Facebook and the visitors on your website, and so many other technical considerations that would make it a success. However, if you're not sure what your website is going to help you achieve, please spend your money on social.
Okay. Thanks, John. I think we could do this the whole day, but I like that the appetite for trading is very good. So we'll be packaging something that we can reach out to you guys that hopefully you can onboard you and be able to take up, some of these practical tips and insights to implement for your business. There appears to be great interest in influencer marketing, so very encouraging there. Brian, any last comment to the audience?
None. Stay village. I would just say we continue staying safe and being very open to new ideas and keen on adapting. And it's been an amazing conversation. Yeah, thank you, everyone, and to the attendees as well. The chat is we're in the chat as well here. Yeah.
Fantastic. Anything else? Charity, John, you want to tell us how you ended up in the car?
My first job before any job I do is parenthood. I'm a father of two very active boys. Sometimes they throw me out of our own home, and this is one such case. If I want sanity, as a last word, really, we need to stay safe, but also from a business point of view, if there is something that I would like the attendees to walk away with, is to go back and ask themselves, what would I like to achieve with my digital presence? And don't start talking things like brand. Okay, you can start really, but quantify brand awareness, sales and lead generation. Put KPIs to it. So brand awareness, is it going to be reach, engagement, clicks, and all that stuff? Then when you get down to sales, what does that translate into? Is it going to be leads? what is the conversion rate that you're looking at for your leads. So have KPIs, but also have targets. That's the only way you reflect back after 1 month and see if you are on track or off track, and then take corrective measures. Yeah, but thank you guys for sparing the time and joining us for this one.
Thank you, John. And regards to your 2 young champs. Charity, any last comments for the audience?
Thank you. My last comment is before have check should include a clear understanding of your audience. It should have a clear distinction about, but most importantly, more than ever, be the brand that feels, that resonates, that is relevant for the audience, especially more than ever now. Brand activism is very important for you. So before your execution, consider those elements. And thank you very much for joining us and for being an active audience. And thank you very much to the fellow panelists. Blessings.
All right, that brings us to the end of the conversation. Thank you to the audience. Thanks for making time to join us. We went above time, but I guess that's what good happens to good conversations. Thank you to the panelists for making time for this. We look forward to probably making this more frequent or in one way or another form. Thank you all. Stay safe. Take care. Bye-bye.